What is up, everyone? In this box, I have something quite special. I have a brand spanking new, never used, new old stock Evercase beige PC case that I purchased brand new from the Evercase website. Now, that name is probably ringing a bell to quite a few of you because Evercase have been around for such a long time in the PC case and general PC accessory kind of market for a very, very long time. For some of you, you may not have heard of them, and that may not be surprising considering the fact that their product line is kind of stuck in a little bubble of time, if you like. It is fascinating to browse their website and to look at their eBay shop because everything they have seems to be sort of like late 90s kind of vibes up to about maybe 2010 at the absolute newest, maybe slightly newer. Have a browse and see for yourselves, see what you think. I'll put the links in the video description for anyone who hasn't checked out the Evercase website in a while. It is like a little time capsule, and I really enjoyed putting together an order on this site and getting my hands on a new old stock beige case. Now, I wasn't 100% sure that this was new old stock stuff. I couldn't quite work it out. So I looked into Evercase as much as I could online and found out a lot about the company, but I still couldn't really find out if they were still making these cases. It wasn't immediately apparent. So I just sent them an email and I asked them outright, is this new old stock? I explained a little bit about what I was doing and I explained that I wanted to deliver the information to my audience. I asked, is this new old stock or is this stuff still being made? Sadly, this is indeed new old stock, and although they do have a fair bit of stock to last the next few months, once all this stuff is gone, it will indeed be gone. Most of these cases have been discontinued, which is a real shame. I did think this was probably the situation because going back a little while, there were a lot more cases available on the site. And I think probably what happens is as they sell out of a particular design, a particular model, they'll just pull that from the site. And there aren't too many beige, exclusively beige cases left on the site, whereas maybe a couple of years ago there were a fair few more. I've seen some random little forum posts and older YouTube videos where people are unboxing Evercases of designs that are clearly no longer available on their site, so that's what leads me to believe that that is what's been happening. So it is really sad. Once all these are gone, they're gone. Now, what is it with beige cases? What is the deal with all of this? Why are we checking one out? As you guys know, a number of months ago, I finally refurbished IMNC HQ. And as part of this refurbishment, I want to make everything nice and seamless and easy. And so far, it's gone fantastically. I have everything here I need at my disposal, and we're building up the room in such a way to make doing all of this stuff super easy and convenient. So as part of that, I want a permanent PC here available to me to use. Now, for the last couple of months, I've had the Doom PC hooked up and that's been working lovely. It's a great machine and that was wonderful to build. But the trouble with that machine is it is fairly old. It's a Sandy Bridge platform. We built it back in 2016 and even then it was a used platform. It was a great project for the channel. It was a very, very popular video and the system is gorgeous, and still to this day, it is a lovely system. And I did consider just a platform upgrade for that system, but I kind of wanted to do something completely different, and the Doom PC will be suitable for another project in the future. I haven't thought about what that would be yet, but it will be an excellent system to hold on to do something with sometime down the line. For this new system for the new IMNC HQ, I wanted something that would look pretty cool on camera because as much of a functional workspace as we're building, this is also my set, my one and only set for doing these videos. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool? I've kind of had a little kind of hankering for a beige system, an older system again. I thought, wouldn't it be cool to build this modern PC into a beige case? So a little bit like the sleeper builds that you guys see on YouTube, you see on the web that are kind of popular to do, I guess. This won't be so much a sleeper build because there won't be crazy powerful components packed inside, but I guess it will be a sleeper build in the sense that yes, the components inside the beige case are going to be way, way newer than you'd expect to find in your typical beige PC that you may find in the back of someone's attic or something like that. So the build is going to come later. I'm not going to reveal the parts in this video. All we're going to be doing is checking out the Evercase case, and I think that's a really cool thing to do because it is just so unique. The fact that you can go on the web and you can buy one of these right now, brand spanking new, is absolutely incredible, and that is not going to be around for much longer. So if you do want to snap up any of these older deals, then check them out, and they really are deals. Let's talk very briefly about price for just a moment. When I first came up with this idea, I wasn't expecting to use a brand new case. I thought I would just pick up any old beige PC for a tenner, 15 quid somewhere, and reuse the case. That was my initial plan. It makes perfect sense. Trouble is, sometime since the last time we checked this stuff out, and now, these systems have shot up in price. If it's an old Windows 98 machine or early Windows XP machine, it doesn't matter what make it is, how it looks, it doesn't even matter about condition, doesn't matter if it works or not. If it has a beige case, it is commanding 50, 60, 70 pounds plus on eBay. And I just wasn't willing to pay that. And of course, you've got the usual thing of, you know, postage is an absolute nightmare. Most of this stuff is pickup only, blah, blah, blah. All of these usual problems with large-ish computers on eBay. And what is even more ridiculous is I felt I couldn't pay that because I was going to strip out a system that is potentially now considered a retro system. I don't really want to part one out. I wouldn't mind having one of those as well to play with, an older system again. So it felt wrong stripping the guts out of an already built machine. This is why a case only is absolutely ideal. I also didn't want to pay that much because we were throwing these things away a matter of just a handful of years ago. Even on my very own channel right here, we've checked out at least 4, 5, maybe even 6 beige machines where we part them out, strip them out. This is going back a good few years, but part them out, recycle the case, put the case out for scrap metal. You know, it's crazy. Nobody wanted these beige cases, and all of a sudden it's nearly impossible to find them at a good price. So I'm chuffed with what we found. I was always aware of Evercase, but I was definitely not aware that they were still selling all of this kind of stuff brand new. I'm delighted to be checking this out. I have looked at it. I've checked it because it's been a couple of weeks until I was able to film this. I did take it all out and check it out. So enough rambling. I've got to do many, many cuts because I'm suffering with horrible hay fever today. Or, well, every day really at the moment. So yeah, lots of cutting through this video so that I can do all my disgusting hay fever stuff off camera, but let's check this case out regardless because I'm just desperate to show it to you guys. So here is the box. Now, as I say, I've opened it to check it all out, so it's not completely my first impressions, but when we dig into the nitty-gritty of the case, I haven't looked too much into the details. So let's tip this upside down and take a little look. Now, the packaging was perfect, but I broke a little bit of the polystyrene when I was putting the case back into the box. That is completely my bad. There was nothing wrong with the packaging at all when it arrived. And you can start to see the beauty that is the beige case. Let's just get a shot of all of this packaging. I don't think I'll be putting this back in the box now because we're going to be checking this out and we'll be doing the build itself very, very soon. This can now stay out of its box, I think. Here's the order. I'm covering my address, but you guys can see all of the accessories that I ordered with this guy. This is the case model, and I'll pull up a screenshot of the website as well. These are all the accessories I ordered, and this was the total, including shipping. I'm just so pleased with that price, everything I received. The most impressive part about this is you get a free power supply. So you get to choose either a 300 or 350 watt power supply for free, and it doesn't add any cost. So I was like, yes, please, we will add the free power supply. As for other stuff in the list, we will check out all of the accessories during the build because I did purchase all of the accessories with the build in mind. But we'll save that for the build itself. We'll check out the power supply and everything that's in here anyway. I've taken some of the accessories out. Basically, the way that it was packaged is everything I ordered was inside the case, which impressed me because it wasn't just a case off the shelf that was shipped directly. Someone had actually gone to the effort of putting everything that I needed inside the machine. And not only that, as you guys saw, the fan and the power supply was completely optional. They installed the fan and the power supply in the case for me. So I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting a separate box with all these accessories, but this is the 80mm fan I ordered, and this is the power supply I ordered. So absolutely incredible stuff. Let's get a better angle and check out the case. So I guess we'll start with the side panel because this is the way we're facing. It is just a blank, completely beige side panel with a little vent hole there. There's something a little bit special in here and I'm quite excited about it. So there's a little vent hole there. We'll check that out in a minute. We've also got this classic little indent here that you would use to pull the case open, which was found on nearly all of these old beige systems back in the day, so that's nice to see. Spinning around to the front is a very important part because this is how our system is going to look. Now at the top here we do have a little crack. I believe this was me, because when I broke that piece of polystyrene, I did kind of slam the front of the PC against the floor as I was trying to repackage it into the box, and I think I cracked the front here. This is a plastic front that pulls off. I can repair this crack quite easily from the inside so that you won't even be able to see that. So that's pretty cool, no problems there. We've got 4 5¼ and 2 3.5-inch bays, so quite standard for a mid-tower case of this era. Coming down, you guys can see we've got a nice little kind of grey area at the bottom here with a proper, very, very clicky power button. We've got power LED and hard drive activity LED. I am really hoping they're green, or at least green and orange. That would be super nice. We've got our little reset button. Here we have 2 USB ports. We have our audio ports and a cutout for a Firewire port that is not there. We also have some ventilation here, because as we'll see in a minute, I believe there is an intake portion, so that is really nice. A little bit of intake there. That is it for the front, nice and plain, nice and simple. And a little teaser for the build is we will be filling up as many of these bays as possible, because it's going to really add to the look of the machine if all of this stuff on the front is full. So before we move on, just a quick shot, because my tripod is so close, I can't get an overall look, but that is how the case looks. As you can see, it is very, very nice. Okay, moving on, we have the other side panel, which is just completely blank, apart from the little handle bit. And let's take a look at the back panel. Okay, so first thing that I noticed before anything was the fact that the main side panel, the panel that you take off to access everything day to day, well, day to day if you're always fiddling with your computer, that is, but you know, the main panel to upgrade stuff, it's actually got thumb screws, which I was not expecting, so that is really nice. Normal screws on this side, power supply at the top here in the back, and then coming down we've got our cutout for an 80mm fan, which is very much standard for this kind of era case. The 120mm fan cutouts came a lot later. 80mm is just what we want. Then we've got the IO shield cutout. This is a standard ATX case, of course, that was quite important. We've got some other areas here for some cutouts. I think back in the day you could kind of punch these out, and then if you had an optional serial connector or whatever kind of multi-pin connector that you wanted to put in here, they could be screwed into the back of the case instead of occupying slots. But yeah, they're just there. We won't be using any of those. We'll just leave those be. And then coming down here, we have got our expansion slots. So standard ATX, there's 7 expansion slots here. And as you can see, one of them already has something in it. We have a complete and utter pass-through here for the front panel audio. Now, I don't know if I'm going to retain this. I'm still undecided. What I like about this is it uses a pass-through. So this is for if you don't have the required header on the board, or you want to plug into the back of your motherboard audio or your sound card directly with the audio jacks, you can just pass that straight through to the front of the system. Obviously these days you just get an audio header, that HD audio that you plug straight into the motherboard. We could retain these. They are pretty cool. They're beige colored cables and they look pretty awesome, and it's pretty quirky as well, but I'm not 100% sure yet, because I could probably modify the front panel to just have some modern audio connectors on there that plug directly into the motherboard, but we'll decide that during the build. Next to the slots here, we've got some more ventilation on the back, and that is pretty much it. One thing to note about this is the feet are not pre-installed on the machine, so this currently has no feet. One thing to keep in mind if you're sliding it around on a table or something, you don't want to scratch up the table. Like I said, the fan was an optional order. There were a couple of different thickness 80mm fans available on the Evercase website. I picked the thick one, I think it was a 25mm, and that is installed there. We're going to need to do a second order. We'll probably order from the Evercase eBay store next time for just a little bit of variety. Plus they got a few more little bits available on there. And it's a nice easy way to browse stuff. So we're going to need to order another 80mm fan as an intake, and possibly a couple of power supply adapters and a couple more little accessories for the build. Sliding around, let's undo the thumb screws, and then we will check out the internals. Now this is where stuff starts to get seriously impressive. Now, as undesirable as these cases were at a certain point in time, and still are to a lot of people, not everyone's going to want to do a beige build all of a sudden just because a few people are doing sleeper PCs and a few people are charging a lot of money for them on eBay. It doesn't mean that a sleeper build is up everybody's street. One thing that is undeniable, however, is this kind of generation of case, this era of cases, is pretty solid in terms of build quality and even features. And you can just tell by looking at this thing, you can just tell straight away that it is quality. So we'll check out a few of the things we've got in here. We'll actually go top to bottom, I think, of absolutely everything. So first of all, there was an option to order a power cable. It was only a couple of quid. And of course, I had to go for a brand new beige power cable from Evercase. I am absolutely chuffed with this. So that is going to be the power cable for our system. Next up, we have the accessories. So these are all of the accessories for the case itself. Let's take a look at what we've got. A power supply adapter that I ordered. So that has been placed into the box. I ordered that separately on the product page there. We've got an exploded view of the case here with all of the explanation about the screws and the front panel connectors and this, that, and the other. So that is handy. And then we have a bag of accessories, including the case feet and all of the different screws you're going to need for the build. Just by eyeballing this, I'm not sure if there's enough if you wanted to put a drive in every single bay. There could be. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell. There possibly is. That'll remain to be seen. So that's the accessories. I think I can get the power cable in here as well. There we go. Great stuff. So with that out of the way, we can really see what's going on with the case. So first of all, what is probably sticking out is this thing. This is a unique something or other that you don't really see on cases these days, but we have this entire bracket here that is designed to do two things. Firstly, it is designed to channel the air. Let's see if we can unclip this. How do you come out? Slide you that. Okay, yeah, cool. So we have this kind of air duct here to channel the air to/from the CPU fan. I guess it would be almost like creating a fresh intake from that grill on the side panel directly into the CPU fan, which is really quite cool. I'm not sure how effective this would actually be in practice because it would really depend on the CPU cooler, but I'm guessing this was at a time where most CPU coolers were pretty much the same. These days, I'm not even sure if the CPU is going to be in even the right location for this to have an effect, but we're going to leave it on here anyway. This is super, super cool. And I noticed that this is possibly just another 80mm. Yeah, certainly looking at it there, maybe 90mm actually. A little bit bigger, but you could probably screw a fan to this somehow as well. Obviously, if you put a fan on this side, then there won't be enough clearance for the side panel, but that is pretty cool. Secondly, you have this area here, and this is extra stability for your PCI cards or your expansion cards. So what's cool about this is, I believe, let's have a little look and see. Yeah, there we go. So if you've got a smaller card, you can just keep moving this until you can clip the card into the little bracket there. Or you can remove it entirely if you've got a huge card and it's in the way, and you can just put it back in there. So you can have all of these at different sizes to hold your different size expansion cards, which is pretty crazy. If you put that there, as you can see, it's gonna definitely add some extra stability and security to those expansion cards. But it seems quite far away from the cards. You would need to really crank them, I think, yeah, to hold a card. And of course, they're only really suitable for PCB only cards. So like big graphics cards with big coolers on them these days, you probably wouldn't be able to hold them with this, but we're going to give it a go anyway. If you don't want that at all, then it looks like this entire thing just unscrews. A couple of screws there, and you can take this entire PCI support bracket thing away, which is crazy. So we're obviously going to keep it. We're going to keep as much as we can because this is just crazy. And a couple of the innovative things that you see from this time, a lot of it you don't really see anymore, but a lot of it you do, because a lot of things started this early on that we still have today. I mean, the entire ATX standard is pretty much the same today, so that's why we can get a new PC in here. Nothing has really changed with the basic standard, which is, when you think about it, is pretty crazy. So with that big bracket thing removed, it's looking a lot more kind of standard in here now. We've got our power supply at the top. Again, this is a free inclusion, so you can select no PSU, but the case will be the same price. So even though this is not quite up to the spec of what we need for the computer that we're going to build in here, it's still lovely to have a brand spanking new old stock PSU included. This isn't ancient because we do have SATA power connectors on here. Still got a floppy connector on here, so we're mid to late noughties on this power supply. Looks like we have a 20+4. And then we have a 4-pin CPU connector, no PCIe power. So this would be nice for a basic little Windows XP build or something like that. We're definitely going to keep this handy. The power supply itself is apparently a Firebull power supply. I can't imagine that it's a very low quality PSU or anything like that. I just can't see Evercase actually supplying any low quality rubbish components. This looks a solid PSU. The cables seem really nice. We've got a big 120mm fan in the bottom. It's not one of those little 80mm fans in the back. It seems a nice unit, but I will quickly Google, I'll Google this and see if anything comes up. I believe there are connections between Evercase and FSP power supplies somewhere along the line from my Googling that I did. Of course, FSP power supplies are a big name in power supplies. They make power supplies for all sorts of brands, Cooler Master, Corsair, the list goes on, but I very much doubt this is an FSP model. Yeah, when I Google Firebull power supplies, we've got a couple of used options coming up on eBay, but it's the first actual result is from the Evercase website. So I mean, yeah, excellent. And they are super cheap as well, like really cheap. The 350 watt version looks to be about £16.80 if you don't get it for free, so that's incredible. Yeah, we'll definitely keep that for a future project. That's going to be a lot of fun. But we do need to put something a little bit better, slightly more modern in the system to support our components. So we'll be taking that PSU out. Next up, we have the 80mm fan that I spec'd out. Again, was not expecting it to be pre-installed in the case, but I ordered the fan with the case and they just presumed that I was using the fan and the power supply for this build and screwed it in for me, which is incredible. We have the inside of this audio pass-through card. So as you can see, we've just got a cable coming straight out of the front panel area, all the way through the case and out of the back, which is pretty cool. Here we have the motherboard tray with some pre-installed standoffs. I believe there were some more standoffs in the accessory box as well. We've got a standard placement there for a full-size ATX motherboard, but there are additional holes where we could move things around there. Motherboard tray is not removable on this case. Classic 3D Game Man line there for anyone that remembers those reviews. Yeah, it's a point to mention on these cases because back in the day you could remove the motherboard entirely from a lot of these kind of cases, but this is not one of them. In terms of cabling, it's quite exciting. We've got our nice array of front panel connectors. So we've got our power button, power LED, reset switch, and hard drive activity LED. We can plug all of those in our lovely rainbow colors there, proper old school. We have got, what is this? What are you? Ah, look, yes. This is the speaker connector. So we've got a little PC speaker in the front of the case. I'll get a closer view of that in a minute. And we can plug that into the speaker header on the motherboard to get our beeps. We're definitely going to want to do that. And then we've got these two thick black cables for our USB. So these are usually these days, well, it's usually USB 3 these days, but with newer cases that have USB 2 ports on the front, pre-USB 3, with that brand new connector, that big one, the multi-pin one, which actually isn't very nice. This is what you got way back in the day. It wasn't a single USB 2 header. You had all the separate USB and you had to put them in individually. So this is for one port, this is for another port, and we have 4 connectors for each that we're gonna have to make sure that we connect properly to the motherboard. So next up we have, on the bottom of this case, I notice here, we have mounting for what looks like an optional hard drive caddy. So you can probably buy an accessory where you would slot a hard drive mount in here if you needed another 1 or 2, maybe it's just for 1, but possibly 2 3.5-inch hard drives at the bottom of the case, and they probably screw onto that post there. We have the area to screw on the 4 feet at the bottom of the case, so we'll definitely be doing that. Here we have our 3.5-inch drive bays. This is a completely removable cage, and it also looks like we have mounting to expand the 3.5-inch drives down. So these are for the external bays. Of course, you can put a hard drive in them and leave the blank on the front, that's no problem. Standard would be 1 floppy, 1 hard drive, or you could probably add to this at some point. Yeah, these are on both sides. You could probably screw in an additional 2 or 3 bay unit here that may actually slot into these slots at the bottom of the case as well, or indeed screw in from underneath that I can see here. That was probably an option. Future Tom cutting in here for just a second. I noticed in the edit that I made a little bit of an error when I looked at this drive cage. I didn't notice straight away, but this is in fact a 3 by 3.5-inch drive cage. So you can get the 2 external devices in here. So maybe your floppy drive and your card reader, or your 2 floppy drives, or whatever you want to do, and there's still space for a hard drive at the bottom. And another indication of this is the screw spacing. So you can see you've got the hard drive style side mounted screw spacing on the side of the cage here. So that's really nice. You'll still get a hard drive in there, even if you've got 2 3.5-inch devices. Secondly, I have put the feet on. I didn't during the video because I was going to put the feet on during the build, but I have now put the feet on. Unfortunately, as I said, I was like, careful if you buy this case because you'll scratch your desk. Unfortunately, I have scratched my desk. So well done, Tom. Moving this around, completely oblivious to my own advice. But never mind, this is a work desk, so that's not a problem. But yeah, I've now got the feet on, which is a very, very wise move. Anyway, back to the video. You've got your 4 5.25, no toolless stuff anywhere to be found. You just put the drives in, you screw them in. Nice that you're not restricted to the single screw holes on these drives. So as you can see, it's more of a slot than a hole. That way you can maneuver the drive so it perfectly lines up with the faceplate before you screw it in, which is nice. And that is pretty much it for the internals. So I'm just going to quickly grab the camera to show you a close-up of a couple more bits. This is the front area. So we do have our intake for another 80mm fan. And as you guys can see, this would get fresh air from this area in the front. So we'll definitely install an intake. That'll be really cool. I'll order another one of these from the Evercase website. We'll use the original 80mm fans. That'll be really nice. There's our little PC speaker right up there. So we've got this nice cable, connects to the header, and that is our little PC beeping speaker there. And then all we have is all of these front panel cables go through a hole in the front of the case, because they are probably directly connected to the panel. So let's try and pop the front panel off and see what's going on there. So it looks like we have these little posts that kind of sit in here. I don't want to pull too hard initially, but this should pull off. There we go. Okay, fantastic. There's that. There's that. Okay, nice. So looking at the front of the case, let's have a little look at this. By default, we don't have a bay cover on the top 5.25, and that is because you would probably never ever build a PC without at least one optical drive in this era. And then same for your floppy drive. There would always be a floppy drive here, so no plate there, but you can optionally remove these other plates, which we will be doing because we're going to try and fill these bays as a little bit of a goal. We've got a couple of pass-through holes in the front of the chassis itself here for the front cover. I would imagine that there would be available many different external covers or fronts of the case available for this exact chassis design. All of the front panel stuff comes out of this hole but goes straight up into this sort of block here, which is also removable. Yes, there are plastic tabs. Aha, cool. Yeah, I've just clicked the bottom out. We won't remove that for now, but there are tabs there that will allow us to remove the entire power button and LED assembly. So again, if you had a different front panel that had a different arrangement of power buttons and LEDs, that separate module could be clipped onto the front of this case, which is quite cool. So all of this is very modular to manufacture. All of these are just kind of presumptions, but when you browse the website, you might realize that a lot of the cases look quite similar, and a different design would probably be just a different faceplate and some minor alterations to the internals maybe. As for the USB and the audio, that is different. They both go straight to the front cover. And if you guys can see this, what is happening here is on this side, this is interesting. So for the audio, we've got a standard, what looks to be at least a standard header. Let me see if we can get a close up of this. There we go. So yes, for the audio, that's the pass-through cables. That does look fairly standard in terms of the header. So we could look, I guess, to just buy an audio cable to connect these ports directly to the motherboard. And then for USB, I don't know if you guys can see that, but on this side, we have a standard USB connector, or what appears to be a standard single header with only separate headers on the other side of the cable. So you could probably replace that whole cable for headers that aren't separate, which is quite cool. But all of that is in one block. As you can see, it is made as one audio/USB thing for the front of the case here, and sort of hot glued into place. And there we have the crack that I'm pretty sure was my fault. We can push that back together and we will fix the crack from the back here when we do the build, so that when you look at it from the front, you shouldn't be able to see the crack. hardly at all, which would be quite nice. So let's pop the front panel back on. We've got nice easy access to install the front fan there and also install all the drives and maybe figure some stuff out with that front panel cabling, or at least the audio and USB. We might make our lives a little bit easier by changing those cables. Or for authenticity with the case, we may just keep it exactly the same, because using the pass-throughs could be quite fun. And also hooking up all that separate USB isn't something we get to do every day. So that might be quite fun as well. So there's another quick shot of it there, just with everything back on except the side panel. This is the lovely brand new beige case that we'll be installing everything into, and it's so bright in here that it almost looks white on the camera. It is quite white because it's brand new. It's definitely not white or in the same league as modern white cases. It's definitely beige in color, but I'm kind of thinking to myself, maybe I should leave this out in the garden a couple of days just to yellow up a bit more, because that is my only thing that I'm missing out on now. By using a brand new case, I'm not getting that aged look about the system. It doesn't look like it's been found in someone's dusty attic or someone's cellar or something like that from 20, 25 years ago. It does look pretty brand new. Possibly once I install some older drive accessories in here, like an old crusty floppy drive and stuff like that, it may look a little older. So we'll see how that goes, but I always have that as an option. It might beige up a little bit more if I leave it out in the sun. If anybody knows anything about that kind of science, just let me know. That's something that I need to research anyway. Has anyone done anything about that? How do you make something more beige? Usually we're retro brighting, so we're going the other way around, trying to make something less yellowish. But I want this more yellowish. It's a little bit too white. So I think this is going to be a really fun build. This case, I'm excited to fill it up with all of the new stuff. I'm going, of course, used hardware for this build once again. We're going to reuse a couple of bits that I've got left over from other projects, and I've got actually most of the components here. I'm only waiting for one or two more things, and then we'll be able to get cracking with this build, so it won't be too far away. I'm going to aim to have a similar spec system, not quite as powerful, but similar spec to the gaming PC that we built about a year ago. So that PC is being used in my living room, and we've got more stuff to go with that. As you guys know, I need to get on with the water cooling for that. That is still very much a plan. We are going to do that. I have a graphics card upgrade for that system waiting to go in. I need to do that lovely custom loop. It's going to be awesome. And I've also got to put this guy together as well. It's not going to be quite as high spec as that one, but it's going to be approaching that kind of level, a similar ballpark. So it's going to be a Ryzen build, similar kind of age. So definitely a big platform upgrade over the Doom PC, but nothing too crazy. So it goes without saying, if you guys want to get hold of one of these beige cases, you might want to do it sooner rather than later. They're a UK-based company, and shipping outside of the UK is expensive for obvious reasons, but they do ship outside of the UK, and these cases are available, and other designs as well. They've got a lot of stuff on there. Not as much as they once did, I don't think, which is a shame, but they still have a lot of accessories and stuff left over as well, some of which I've got down there, and they are super cool and super retro. It is very much like a freeze frame, an absolute time capsule when you go on that website. Even in terms of the website technology itself, you know, it's like unsecured website and all this stuff, so when you're going through the checkout, it's all a little bit sketchy. If you didn't know who the company were, you'd stumble across those guys on Google and think, man, this isn't genuine, you know, it's one of those situations. But the reply I had, the email reply, was absolutely wonderful, and these guys are real people that have been around for a long time, and here is the proof. This is a real new old stock beige case that is absolutely lovely. The quality, I didn't mention this, we looked at all the features. The quality, this thing is absolutely solid. There's a certain feel to this type of case. They really are built like tanks, and there's no sharp edges or anything in here. It's all very nicely finished. So stay tuned, we're gonna put an excellent build in here, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait just a couple of weeks before we can do that, and then I'll try and get that out as quickly as I can, because it's going to be good fun. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.